What's up, everybody? Chicago Goon here, bringing you another Arsenal talk. In this Arsenal talk, I'll be covering the fans, the supporters of Arsenal. And now more than any time of being an Arsenal fan, it's a we are a, a fan base that is divided. Now more than any time that I've been an Arsenal fan, I've never seen it like this. Of course, it took some time, but eventually. Um, it almost feels like it is like 50-50 now with the Wenger outside, the Wenger inside. Um, it took some time, but eventually it kind of got to this point. And throughout the season, I've been viewing the fans obviously with social media now, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Even myself. I'm trying to get my voice heard. Trying to, it's a good stress reliever. I'll tell you that much. Especially being an Arsenal fan, it's definitely a great stress reliever to do these things. Because honestly, after I do one of these, whether it's a game, whether it's a win, whether it's a loss, I feel better. Especially if it's a loss, I always kind of feel better after the fact that I can just air out my frustrations. And with social media now, every fan has a voice, whether you have your own computer, a smartphone, whatever. Even you have an Xbox, a PlayStation, whatever. You have a voice now. You can, let your voice be heard. Possibly, who knows who watches Twitter, whether on Arsenal, any other club. Um, you know, every fan has a voice now, and that's a good thing because back in the day, the only time you could have your voice heard was through a banner or through a protest. And now the whole game plan has changed, which I'm sure every single club in the world hates. Whether you're a great club or a bad club, they probably hate it the most, even though they use it the same way that we do. They use it more as a advertisement, free advertisement, free marketing, what have you, to where we use it to let our voice be heard. And let's get something clear though with the fans. Every fan base has their fucking idiots. They have their fan bases where a player might throw out a tweet or something, and you'll see some idiot saying, I hope you die or something. Some stupid. I hope you get injured. I hope you know, it's some terrible stuff that just doesn't need. I exclude this from this. Um, Arsenal has them. Every club in the world has them. You saw last year with Chelsea, with not letting a black man into the tube, so that he can get to his destination. Yelling out racist chants and whatnot. Luckily, those guys were banned from Stamford Bridge for life. Hopefully, um, Arsenal Football Club last weekend. Supposedly, there was Arsenal fans yelling and chanting anti-Semitic chants before the game. There was a fight before the game, right outside of White Hart Lane. Just be lucky though that we're not like the Eastern European teams, Russian teams, to where they actually get together before or after a game and fight each other, for 15 or 20 minutes, and everybody basically goes home bloody. Luckily we're not that. Um, maybe back in the day, maybe back in the early years, before I was even born, yeah, maybe some stuff like that happened. You know, maybe there's like a little scuffle in a pub somewhere in London, but not like that. That's just crazy hooligan stuff that we're just not a part of. But let's get into it. Let's talk about the fans. Let's talk about the supporters of Arsenal, and let's kind of like hash it out and to where you have a fence. We are a fan base that is divided right now, more than any time um, in the last 10, 15 years. Of course, we had no reason to fight amongst each other, talk bad about each other because we couldn't, because there wasn't social media. But at the same time, Arsenal was winning. They were winning the Premier League. They were winning FA Cups. They were being competitive in Champions League, but within the last 10 to 12 years, we haven't been. And through time, frustration builds up. Just like I've said yesterday in my part one as well, it's just a built up frustration that the balloon finally broke. But let's get this one out of the way. It is the topic at hand. It's the hot topic at hand all throughout this week, and it still is. It's still getting enough outcry, I guess you can say, whatever. But the banner that was shown at the Hall City game, of course, it said Arson, thanks for the memories, but it's time for you to say goodbye. There's, of course, a fence divided again between Arsenal fans. There are some Arsenal fans who believe it's embarrassing, disrespectful to the manager, disrespectful to the players. I don't know how it's disrespectful to the players, to be honest with you, because it's just talking about one single person. You know, some people even went as far as to say it was ruthless. I don't know how it was ruthless, to be honest with you. And then there's the other side who completely agrees with it, completely agrees with what DT said, even on Arsenal Fan TV. He did an interview after the game, and he explained what the banner meant and why he did it, and why a large group of people did it. And I think it was, personally, I think it came off well. I think he explained everything in detail of what needed to be explained. But other people thought differently. You could see it in that video as well. And I'm gonna get into that. You know, some like different podcasts and whatnot. That it just drives me kind of nuts of how some people act towards this of what happened on Tuesday night. But again, to me, it wasn't disrespectful. It wasn't embarrassing. Stuff like this has happened all throughout time in football. If before social media, the only time you could get your point across and and cause some type of change and to get your voice heard was through banners and through protests outside the stadium, outside maybe a library. But now you have Twitter, you have YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, whatever you use. Now you have a voice to where banners are kind of weeded out sometimes. I mean, what, 2, 3 years ago, Man United, they flew a plane over Old Trafford that says Moyes out. Get Moyes out. So people are still using, that's the old school mentality. Obviously DT is not the youngest guy in the world, so it's kind of the old school mentality of this is how uh, fans get their point across, to cause some type of chain reaction, to cause some type of change within the club. And I didn't think it was malicious. I didn't think it was disrespectful. It could have been 1,000 times worse than what it was. It didn't say hashtag Wengerout, which is the hot hashtag anytime that Arsenal loses, or they have a draw, or they just bottle, the league or whatever, Champions League again. It didn't say, old man, you're ruining my club, get the fuck out. It didn't say any of that. It just said, thanks for the memories, but it's time for you to say goodbye. That's all. And people even say, thanks for the memories. Well, what does that even mean? Well, we're fans. That's all we have is the memories. We're not the ones that actually play on the pitch. And maybe one thing I didn't get across from my Arsene Wenger episode was that even if he retires after this year, even after next year, he still deserves a statue outside of the Emirates. He still deserves all the praise because of what he did for the club. But at the same time, what he's been doing with the club over the last several years has been kind of ruining it. He's ruining his own legacy of his antics, so to speak. But he still deserves a statue. He still deserves all the praise. He still deserves a standing ovation for like 10 minutes, a round of a fucking applause, to get carried off the field, all that. But at the same time, with this banner and what it meant and how it was explained, nothing was malicious about it. Nothing was disrespectful, in my opinion. Now there's, this thing's been going on since Tuesday. It's been staying around. It's been staying around. Usually something like this, sometimes it hangs around for a couple days and then it disappears. But this one has been front and center throughout this whole entire week, and I think that's a good thing. I think it's good that we're, as Arsenal fans, at least when we're on this side of the fence of saying that we need a change, we need a new manager, fresh ideas, better tactics, all that, better transfer policy. You, you know, we're not letting it die, and that's a great thing because maybe it will cause some type of chain reaction. Maybe it will get Ivan Gazeta to start to think. Maybe when Stan Kroenke decides to get his ass to London for his one or two times a year, that maybe he will stand in front of Arsene Wenger and say, "Why is this happening?" Maybe he will start asking questions. Probably not, obviously. You know, but at the same time, maybe it will cause some type of a chain reaction. And it's great for the fans not to let this die. And even the ones who are on the other side of the fence who thinks it's disrespectful and ruthless, they're not letting it die either. And that's the funny part, honestly. If you want something like this to die, stop talking about it. But they're still talking about it. Why? Because it's a hot topic and everybody wants to know their views and their opinions, and they're not letting it die either. That's a great thing. But also um, with this banner on Arsenal Fan TV, I lost a lot of respect for Robbie during that interview. If you go back and rewatch that, you go back and rewatch all the interviews after the Man United game, all the interviews after the Swansea game. He was heated, especially after that Swansea game. I mean, he was pissed off, really pissed off throughout every single interview that he gave after that game. But then Hull City, all of a sudden he's just like, well, we just won 4-0. Why are you bringing out this banner? What does winning that game have anything to do with it? On the second hand, I would say to him, we just won 4-0 on a fucking replay from a championship side. But here's this guy running around acting like we just won Champions League. See, this is one of the main problems with the supporters. You can have the shittiest game against Man United, the shittiest game against Swansea, be completely fucking pissed off. But then a week later, you can beat a fucking championship side on a fucking replay and be like all hunky dory, like everything's great. Everything's fine and dandy. And he kept on saying that and acting like that during that whole interview. And it was like, this isn't about just one game. This is years of frustration. This is years of lies and deceit. And I just lost a ton of respect for him because, on one side, he has to be kind of PC and make sure he doesn't piss off, the people at Arsenal so that maybe Arsenal can, file some type of lawsuit and get him shut down. I understand that he has to act like that sometimes, but not like that. Maybe he was playing devil's advocate. But at the same time, there's no reason to act like that. Well, we just won 4-0. Why are you acting like this? But it still wasn't a great game. Theo Walcott, up until he scored his goals, was playing like shit. The first goal Olivier Giroud scored was a gift. The second goal, up until that point, either and even afterwards, they still played like shit. But just because they won 4-0 and they scored a couple goals each, they had a great game. I listened to another podcast, and I'm not going to mention it by name, but this one, I listened to the first 2 minutes of it, and it was about the North London Derby, and they said, well, Bellerin had a great game with his 2 assists. Bellerin was getting his ass kicked by Danny Rose throughout most of the game. But just because he had 2 assists, he had a great game? What are these Arsenal fans watching? Are they watching the same game I am? Because on top of that, Bellerin was on a yellow card for most of the game and couldn't really do anything. And on top of that, he was getting dribbled around all damn day. He was getting faked out all damn day. He was getting run past all damn day. But yet he had a great game because he had 2 assists. Theo Walcott had a great game because he had 2 goals. Olivier Giroud, same fucking thing, but they had shit games. This is the mentality. This is what's wrong with the supporters, because just because Aaron Ramsey scores 1 goal in the North London Derby, all of a sudden every bad game he played like shit anyway that game. But just because he scored 1 goal, everything is fine and dandy. These are how low the standards are now at Arsenal Football Club, especially among the fans. And to go back into the banner and talk about someone else who's part of Arsenal Fan TV, the fucking hypocrite, the the attention whore, and everybody knows who I'm talking about, sat there on Twitter and even in that interview trying to interrupt the interview just so he can get his fucking face on there. Well, I was trying to stand in front of the banner and I tried to, get other people to stand in front of it so no one could see it. No, you just stood in front of it because you wanted your face on TV. You wanted to picture yourself in front of the fucking thing. And here's a fucking hypocrite who a year and a half earlier was trying to start his own campaign of you spend, we spend. Who tried to blast it all over Arsenal Fan TV, all over Twitter, all over, maybe he's part of Instagram. I don't fucking know. I don't follow him anymore because he's a fucking hypocrite and he's a fucking attention whore. But here's an idiot who tries to start his own campaign against the club. And he even wrote me back because I called him a hypocrite. And he said, well, can't you see the difference between the banner and what I was trying to do? I was like, no. This guy, Mo, I'll just say it, fuck him, Mo and DT, both of you were trying to cause change. Because the You Spend, Respend campaign was for Arsenal to change their transfer policy, for Arsene Wenger to start finally spending the money, because up until that point, we only bought Mesut Ozil. That was it. He only spent £42.5 million of the mega war chest that we have. And if they didn't go out and spend and get Alexis Sanchez and Ospina and Chambers and Debussy and Welbeck that summer, I guarantee he would have went on another campaign and said, get Ivan Gazidis out, get Wenger out, because their transfer policy is shit. That's what he was waiting for. But of course, no one really even, no one even supported that thing. Barely anybody did. And he thought with his new fame or whatever he thinks he has, his new Twitter following, that it would just come off and he would be, he thinks he's basically almost like the voice and the face of fucking Arsenal supporters. He had his own little sign, everything, with the Puma logo on it. But yet, he thinks it's different from what DT did. No, there is no difference. You're trying to cause change within the club, but what DT did was disrespectful. Isn't what he did disrespectful? It wasn't. What he did was disrespectful and ruthless towards not having faith in Ivan Gazidis and Arsene Wenger and their transfer policy, Dick Law and all those guys. Isn't that questioning them? Isn't that disrespecting them? That they don't know what the fuck they're doing? Which they fucking don't, but at the same time, it's the same damn thing. But this fucking hypocrite comes out and says, oh, what you did was totally wrong. So I think from this point on, other than a few personalities that they have on Arsenal Fan TV, I don't even want to watch it anymore. It makes me sick. The way Robbie acted that night, the way fucking Mo acted that night, even on Twitter, makes me fucking sick. Makes me sick as an Arsenal fan that they are so fucking blind. And of course, the hypocrite himself, fuck him. You know, he's a drama queen. He is a fucking attention whore. That's what he is. And I hope it goes on. I hope it goes on for the rest of the season. I hope it goes on for the rest of the summer. I hope some of these questions are starting to get answered. You know, that's how a revolution starts. That's how things start to change when groups of people finally get together. They have the same ideas, the same motives, and things start to change. They force the hand. And that's what needs to happen because running the football side of Arsenal, it's like going on a merry-go-round over and over again, over and over again. It's like getting the same used shitty car every time you go buy a new car. Going to McDonald's and getting the same shitty food, and then you say I'm not going to eat this anymore. But then 2 months later, you end up at McDonald's and you buy a Big Mac meal and you eat it again. You're God, this is shit. It's the same fucking thing. And I just do not understand the fans at all of how they can't see this. Just because of one win, it changes everything. You know, North London Derby, people were saying, well, they gave their heart out. You know, when we were down to 10 men, they played heart and soul, desire, everything. Why can't we play like that every fucking game? But we don't. But fans don't want to. Fans don't want to say anything. They're so Wenger in. It's like this guy could run over their cat, run over their dog, run over even their kids, and it'll still be okay. Oh, we can't say anything bad about him. We can't say anything bad about the club. Where in the rule book does it say that we can't agree or that we have to agree with everything they fucking tell us? Everything that Arsene Wenger says is gold. Some fans act like that, especially on Twitter. I mean, it's ridiculous. You know, I'll even go into you know, I'll go into another part of social media, Reddit. Don't ever go there. If you're an Arsenal fan, don't ever fucking go there. Especially if you are on like the Wengerout side, you like to make logical criticisms of players, the club itself. Don't ever go there. You know, throughout this time that I haven't been doing this, um, you know, I've been trying to find other outlets to go to really, talk about Arsenal and, whether it's to praise them, whether it's to criticize, just to find another outlet to talk about the Arsenal. And, I've been on Reddit for, over a year now, but it is awful. Don't ever go there. Okay, so I'm going to go over a few things about this banner. I mean, this is how delusional these guys can be on Reddit, and this is how stupid they can act. I'm just like loading up the comments because I have to use my phone on this because I can't use my computer on it. But yeah, the very first, the top comment that gets voted on the most. Um, DT made a quote, or he said something of the fact that if I was the manager, I wouldn't have gone 11 years without winning the title. I would have actually bought some players. End quote. And then the comment continues, what a fucking idiot. He probably thinks it's like playing FIFA. That's the top comment because that someone posted the banner interview that DT gave on Arsenal Fan TV. The next comment, which is a reply to the comment, is like, that's when I stopped watching. If someone thinks that the sole way to win trophies, then he knows absolutely bugger all. Yeah, you need to buy players to win things. You need to buy good players, even great players, to win things. Duh. The next comment was, "Yeah, I gave up. Nothing he says afterwards is valid." Everything he said within that interview was valid. But of course, this is the perception of Arsenal fans on Reddit. Um, let's see, where's the other one I was looking for here? There was another fucking just like ridiculous comment. Um, oh yeah, the last comment that someone made who basically got downvoted, but he said, "Prick moved right behind Piers Morgan level with Claude for me." I mean, it was just, I mean, this is some of the stupidity instead of actually listening uh, to what the guy said. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. There's some longer ones here. I mean, the excuses people make for Wenger are so pathetic. Fucking enablers. This is a guy who basically agreed with him, and this guy got downvoted to hell. He had like minus 10 on his thing. So basically he's like a Wengerout. But I'm gonna go over something else too. You know, when I first got on Reddit, sometimes you um, pick and choose your times to kind of like talk. You try to get a feel for what the subreddit is and stuff like that, and then you finally start talking. Well, on Reddit, I made a I made a thread, my first thread that I ever made on Reddit. It's called the Gunners. It's just Gunners. It's not the Gunners. It's just Gunners on Reddit. Um, it was about Olivier Giroud. He was about 3 games into his scoring drought, and I brought up the fact that he needs rest. Every single season for the past 3 seasons now, he goes on a disappearing act. He gets too tired. He plays a lot of games, a lot of minutes. Arsene Wenger runs him into the ground, and he needs rest. And that's all I said. That's all I pointed out. It was a logical thread to say Olivier Giroud is the type of player that needs rest, and you cannot play him every single game, week in and week out. You could probably play him 5 games and then he needs a game off. Play him another 5 games, he needs another game off. And that's all I said. I got slated. I got killed. I was told to fuck off. I was told that I'm not an Arsenal fan. I was told that I know nothing about football. But what happened? I was even told, well, it's only been 3 games he hasn't scored. That's not a big deal. It went on for 11 straight games. But I know nothing about football. There was not one positive comment in that entire thread. And this is the mentality of Arsenal fans, especially on Reddit. Don't ever go there. I urge you, unless you want a good laugh. If you want a good laugh, go over there. But you cannot say anything bad about the club. You can't say anything bad about the manager. You can't say anything bad, even if you have logic behind it, which I did. I had even proof behind it that he goes disappearing and that he gets too tired and then he stops scoring for us and that he needs rest. I had logic and facts behind my complaint or my concern, and I got slated for it. If you want a good laugh, though, go over there and read some of the threads and some of the things that people say on there. It's absolutely ridiculous. I almost view that subreddit, as it has to be a bunch of new fans. It has to be. It has to be fans that have come into supporting Arsenal in the last like 3 or 4 years. And of course, they're fucking lucky because they didn't have to go through those 5 to 6 years of where we didn't spend a single dime. They were lucky that they just came in 2 FA Cups already. They think that Arsenal is just winning trophies left and right. That's why I really think about that subreddit because yeah, there's a few old timers on there, a few old timers that really do say some good things. I mean, one redditor, and I haven't seen him since. Right after that banner said, I completely agree with it. I completely agree. I have the same frustrations, and one Redditor came on there and said, "You're not a real Arsenal fan." He came back and he said, "I've been supporting the club for 54 years. I think I have a right to voice my opinion." 54 years, and this guy was saying that. Another thing that got posted today on Twitter, it was horrible to read. It must have took this guy a long ass time to compile all this. It was and you maybe saw it. I retweeted it. It's a Mezical. It was like Mezical, um, at Mezical on Twitter. He went from day one, from when we moved into the Emirates until now, and he mapped out almost every single bad game that we had from '06 until now, and it was depressing. I'll tell you. I mean, I'll go through some of them right here. It's very long. It's very in depth. I mean, for only 140 characters, I'm pretty impressed. And he provided pictures too, of it. The very first tweet is this. It says, "Since we've moved into the Emirates, we've had a lot of terrible moments. Blame who you want. Here's some of the best." And of course, it has a picture of Arsene Wenger. First game there in '06, we needed to start as we want to go on. A draw against Villa side, not good enough. And of course, the next one was one nil up against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. We get all the way to the 85th minute, and then this happens. And of course, it looks like Drogba just slam it into the left post. Um, yeah, I mean, it just goes on and on. There's a ton of games. I mean, it's almost every single game throughout almost every single year. Anfield, Liverpool, Crouch, hat trick, 4-1, fuck's sake. Has a picture of Peter Crouch, holding up his hand. And it goes through this, and it goes through the entire, um, almost every single season up until now. It's pretty impressive, actually. I highly recommend you guys go checking it out. This was posted on Reddit, too. I think the person who actually did this has an account with Reddit, and of course the title was "The Emirates Era, a Decade of Hurt." And of course, here's the first message, the first reply. "And a spineless, submissive, self-loathing, miserable tit." That's what he explained of this person who did all this. Um, another message was, "This is annoying. Yes, when you cherry pick the worst moments over a decade, things look bleak." There's a lot of fucking moments, okay? A lot of them. It's not just cherry picking. Um, it goes on and on about how the entire thing was stupid. The entire thing is horseshit. It's not all Wenger's fault. We couldn't buy any players during that time period. Even though, I mean, '09 we made it. We were on top of the table for a brief moment, and then we drew. I think it was like 5 of the last 7 games, and it just completely lost its league. We were in Champions League. We went to the semifinal. I think the year afterwards, we made it to the quarterfinal. And I mean, making it to the quarterfinal, even the semifinal, it's not easy. You're playing some of the best clubs in the world, the best players in the world. But yet, we didn't have enough players or enough good players to win the league, which is horseshit. You look at some of those, that year '09 was the year of Eduardo breaking his leg. It completely changed the whole outlook and the feel of that entire season when he got his leg broken. Um, but this is the mindset. Arsenal fans are stuck in mediocrity because they are content. Because up to this point, you know, you get used to certain things. You get used to um, your everyday life. You get up in the morning, have some breakfast or whatever, take a shower, get ready for work, get in your car, go to work, stay there for 8 or 9 hours. You get off of work, get back in your car, go home, make yourself some dinner, maybe sit in front of the TV for a little bit, maybe play some video games, whatever you do. Spend some, spend some time with the wife or girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, whatever. It's like the song from Nine Inch Nails. Every day is exactly the same. Same thing here with Arsenal Football Club. We got so used to not spending any money. We got so used to selling off players. We got so used to uh, staying in the top four, a fourth place finish, a third place finish. Again, the fourth place trophy is named after Arsenal. I mean, it's the joke every single year. You see it on Twitter every single fucking year. Well, here's the outcome. Here's the predictions of the next BPL season, and of course they have Arsenal sitting at fourth. And people are so content, they're used to it, that they're okay with it. They're still okay with it for whatever fucking reason. They're still okay with it. And if you are okay with it, if you want Arsene Wenger to continue as the manager, if you're okay with the transfer, you have no right to complain about anything then. You have no right to complain about the players. You have no right to complain about Arsene Wenger. You have no right to complain about Stan Kroenke and Ivan Gazidis. None. But if you do not want to stick yourself and stay in mediocrity, this is what you do. When you get sick of being in football hell, when you get sick of watching the same mediocre players being thrown onto the pitch, sick of seeing players who are completely out of form still starting, your voice needs to be heard. But those people who are content, who love the mediocrity, who love the fact that we've been in the Champions League for 20 straight seasons, haven't won it though, but they're going to celebrate that we're in Champions League. We're going to celebrate that we've made it to the knockout stage every single year. Pff, fuck all that. I want to win the fucking thing. That's nothing to celebrate. I'm sorry, it's not. Top four, not really, you know, nothing to really celebrate about. I'd celebrate if we were competitive. I would celebrate if we made a nice run. If we made if we really pushed whoever won the championship that year. But we don't. We stay up there for maybe a few months, and then the bottom falls out. But then we still, oh, we're going to the Champions League again next year. There's some Everton fans out there, and maybe some Villa fans, and West Ham fans, and Southampton fans, and oh, why are you guys complaining? Why do you want Wengerout? You guys should be lucky. You're in Champions League every year. Yeah, but we haven't fucking won it. Yeah, it's nice to go there. It's nice to have those Champions League nights. But when you go this long without winning the thing, when you have a club that's just has mountains of money that's not spent, it gets frustrating. Because I wouldn't expect an Everton fan or a Villa fan now, or a West Ham fan or a Southampton fan to even understand. Because their fans know and realize that if they even finish sixth in the table, it's a great season for them. For us, it's a poor season, it's a bad season. But some Arsenal fans, they like to celebrate it. They like to celebrate that we're in Champions League again. They like to celebrate that fourth place. They have no right to complain then. They have no right in game on Twitter to say, fuck you, Aaron Ramsey, you passed another shit ball. You have no right to complain because you should just sit there and be content because you are supporting a manager who's not making it better, who's just doing the same things over and over and over again. But this is the mindset of some of these fans. Same with some of these podcasters. Sometimes they bring out some stuff about players, but then when it comes to Arsene Wenger, they hardly say anything about him. Because, oh, he's done so much. Yeah, he has. He's done great things for our club. But how much are you going to just live in the past? He doesn't have the same resume as Fergie, okay? Fergie could have went on and on and on to his last breath at Manchester United. Why? Because he had the resume. He had so many BPL titles. He had two Champions League titles. He had FA Cups. He had Ballon d'Or winners on his teams. He had a treble, the only English treble ever. He had the resume. Yeah, you can say some shenanigans happened during his time there, but at the same time, he has the resume. Arsene Wenger doesn't have the resume. It's good, but it's not great. It was great his first, 8 9 years, but then it just took a large dip. And of course, we had an excuse for that, but we can't use that excuse anymore. But some fans are still using the same excuse, like saying that on Reddit, Twitter, you name it. They're still using the same excuses to defend this guy. For what reason? Do you not want to change? Do you not want to win Champions League? Do you not want to win the league? But they continue on and on and on. On one podcast that I listened to over the last 2 weeks, there was a certain fan who was on this podcast, and I'm not going to name it, not going to name the person, went on a little bit of a rant. And they started talking about the future of the club, spending and all that. And this person said, I wouldn't want Arsenal to start spending like Chelsea or Man City or PSG because then it just wouldn't feel right. Okay. This person even continued on and said, if we spent like that and Arsenal won the league, I would stop going to games because it just wouldn't feel right. I'd rather have Arsenal doing it the Arsenal way. What the fuck does that actually mean? Do it the Arsenal way, meaning we do not spend any money? Because let's be honest here, the first 9 years, the first 8 years, I would say, of Arsene Wenger's tenure here at Arsenal, they spent a ton of fucking money on getting players in. There was hardly any youth academy players still on that team. Thierry Henry was brought in, Patrick Vieira, Silva, Edu, um, Freddie Lumberg, Robert Perez, Dennis Bergkamp, all brought in. Sol Campbell, Martin Keough was brought back eventually. That all cost money, that all cost transfers, and all of them cost at a premium price back then. But yet this person said, I will stop going to home and away games if they start spending like this. This is the modern fucking game. This is what happens. It's not your fucking money, so why would you even care? Actually, it is their money because they have season tickets. And they actually go to the games, spend the extra money to travel, spend the extra money to maybe get a drink or two at the Emirates, buy shirts, buy scarves, hats, whatever. But yet, this person said, well, I wouldn't want to spend it because it just wouldn't feel right. What the fuck does that even mean? So if you're telling me if Paul Pogba called up Arsene Wenger tomorrow and said, hi Arsene, I want out of Juventus, please come and buy me. I'll sign for £180,000 a week. Please come buy me. And of course, Juventus gets on the phone and says, hey, I want to buy Paul Pogba. How much is he going to cost? £60 million. Okay, well, I'm gonna have to go talk to Ivan Gazidis and see if that's a good price and blah blah blah. Are you fucking telling me one of the best CMs in the world, who will be the best CM in the world in maybe a year or two time, if you're trying to tell me that you wouldn't want Paul Pogba at Arsenal right now or next season, just because you would have to spend 60 million pounds on him, that you would look at Arsenal differently, that you wouldn't support them the same fucking way? What about, say, Robert Lewandowski, one of the best strikers in the world currently? If we had to spend 60 million pounds on him to bring him to Arsenal, to score us a shitload of goals, to make us relevant again in Champions League, and maybe even help us win Champions League, you would say no to that? Because that's spending like City and PSG and Chelsea? Hey, Barcelona spends that way. Real Madrid spends that way. Bayern Munich spends that way. All the top clubs in the world spend that way, except for Arsenal. But you want to do it the Arsenal way? Arsenal, again, like I said, spent a shitload of money in those first years that Arsene Wenger took over. They were even close to bankruptcy, and they still found the money to get the players in so that they can win Premier League titles, so they can win FA Cups, so they can finally make it to the Champions League final. Do you think Cesc Fabregas came on a free? Do you think Thierry Henry came on a fucking free? No, we had to spend money to get those fucking players. But I guarantee that same fan was cheering and hollering and clapping and saying Arsenal was the best fucking club in the world during that time period. This is the stupidity of Arsenal supporters. These are these are people who are stuck back in the 90s, where a guy like Thierry Henry only cost 15 million pounds or 17 million pounds, however much he was. That era is dead and gone. Why? Because of TV contracts, new commercial deals, shirt deals like through Puma, Adidas, Nike, they're through the fucking roof. And clubs are taking advantage of it, creating more, generating more revenue for the club. And this is the only way you stay relevant. Because let's be honest, the youth academy at Arsenal is pretty dog shit. It was throughout that entire time, which is embarrassing, which we should have produced more talent throughout those years when we couldn't spend on big players. We should have been bringing in kids so we can bring them up through the club. The only player throughout that time was Jack Wilshere. That was about it. That came up through our academy from when, I don't know, he was like 7, 8 years old when he joined the club as a kid. That's the only player. The next player is Hector Bellerin. You could say Kieran Gibbs in a way, but I think he was bought, just kind of like the Ox and Theo Walcott was. So he wasn't actually really part of our youth academy from the beginning. They're starting to build it back up now. But again, we're behind the 8 ball on that one too. But this is the stupidity. This is the this is the reasoning of Arsenal fans right now. That was case in point right there. When I heard that, I just dropped my jaw, turned off my computer, and said, "I'm fucking done," because I heard enough. I've heard it all. You see it on Twitter every fucking day. I made a tweet. I was like, I'm gonna have to start unfollowing some of these retards because I just can't stand them anymore. Because they are just so content with it all. And like I said in my other episodes, I want to win the league. I want to win Champions League most of all. That's the big one. That's the one I want to win. That I want Arsenal Football Club to win. We can't do that without spending money. We can't do that without bringing in great players. We can't do that if we don't have enough difference makers on the pitch. And we've seen how far away we are over the last 3 seasons. knocked out of the round of 16 every year. We got knocked out by fucking Monaco last year. And you don't think we should go out there and spend money to get those big name players, to get those world class players in here? Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. The last topic I'm gonna point out is, I talked about this last year too. It's worse this year than ever. The atmosphere at the Emirates is embarrassing. It's dog shit. It's the worst in the Premier League. The upper tier of the Emirates is pretty decent. The lower tier is awful. I went to the Champions League night against Monaco, and it was like a fucking ghost town. I thought going into the game that, man, this is going to be a ruckus crowd. It's going to be awesome. We're going to be singing throughout the entire game. It's a Champions League night. This is going to be our best opportunity to get out of the round of 16 and go to the quarterfinals. This is going to be a great fucking night. And it was anything but. It was it was one of the worst sports experiences that I've had. It's depressing. I spent somewhere around 4 grand, airfare, hotel, the money I spent while I was there to see that. And to be in an atmosphere like that, it was a fucking ghost town throughout most of the game. Even the section that I was in, a few of us only tried to sing the songs, and it was just nothing. People, I remember, I'm sitting in the second row, close to the field, and people were looking behind, looking at me like, "What are you doing? What are you standing up for? Why are you making all this noise?" It was like ridiculous. These are some of the people on the lower tier that, they sit on their hands all game long. And the only time that they would get up is, when the Ox scored. That was it. That was the only time that there was a lot of noise in the Emirates that night. But throughout this whole season, last season, even the season before that, the season before that, the season before that, it's just a ghost town there. You can hear the away fans clear as day in that stadium. I've been in the stadium. I'm sure some of you have as well. It's designed to keep noise in. It's designed to be loud. That's how a lot of American stadiums are built these days, whether it's a soccer stadium, a football stadium, a baseball stadium. It's designed to keep noise in because it's part of that mantra of home field advantage, especially in the Premier League, where it's the you know Germany has surpassed England in the best atmosphere for a football game. Those people are nuts. Those people are awesome. I watched some of it on. They're currently the Bundesliga got picked up by Fox in the United States, and so you can see almost every single game now. And that atmosphere is crazy cool. Some of the shit that Dortmund does. Bayern Munich. Those fans, Bayern Munich, they are spoiled, but at the same time, they are just making noise from the first whistle to the last whistle. Arsenal fans are a fucking joke. The away fans are great. The away fans for Arsenal are some of the best, if not the best, next to Crystal Palace in the league right now. And unfortunately, those people are probably scattered throughout the Emirates when it's a home game. I wish those people would get together and just say, let's all sit together, all 3 or 5,000 of us, all sit together at the Emirates too. I know last year or the beginning of this year they were talking about relocation to try to get a seating section inside the Emirates because it desperately needs it. If they could section off about 10,000 seats in the Emirates, if people would agree with it to get a seating section, that stadium would be awesome. You would have that home field advantage. You could hear it. We can make opposing teams nervous. We can make opposing teams not hear each other on the pitch. There was times in that Monaco game where I could hear, okay, I was 2 rows up from the pitch, but on the other side of the field, I could almost hear the Monaco players communicating with each other. You wouldn't be able to do that if you have a ruckus crowd, if you have a loud crowd, if you have atmosphere inside your stadium. It seems like if it's big games, that's when the fans turn up finally. But if it's a game against Swansea City or Norwich or Bournemouth or Watford, or if it's any one of those, it's ghost town. Don't understand it. Don't understand how you can pay that much money, which fans keep on complaining about. I mean, that's another thing. They complain, but they don't do anything about it. How many different, there's going to be a protest. Red Action is opting out from getting their tickets for this weekend's game. And what are most fans doing? Well, why are you doing this? This doesn't make any sense. Why are you doing this? It's a home game. But these are some of the same people who in the summertime, when they get the renewal form from Arsenal, that will start complaining about the ticket prices. Look what happened for the Barcelona game. Arsenal was going to do a surcharge for that game, and the fans rose up finally and complained about it. Even fans from other countries who weren't going to even be at that game supported it. And what happened? A day later, Arsenal came out and said, well, we're not going to charge that surcharge. That's what can happen. Look at Bayern Munich. They tried to raise their price once. And what happened? Thousands upon thousands of fans protested it. Even got outside the stadium and protested it. And Bayern Munich finally realized, okay, the fans are real. The fans are the most important thing about this club. And they went back to the original price. But then you'll see some of the same fans on Twitter right now complaining to Red Action, saying, why are you doing this? It's a joke. And some of these same fans, they go to the stadium, they pay all their money to go see the Arsenal, and they sit on their fucking hands. Doesn't make any sense. It's the most boring atmosphere in the Premier League right now. And these are the locals. These are the people who actually live in London, live outside of London. Yeah, they'll get a whole bunch of tourists, even like me, that paid through the nose for a ticket to see the Arsenal for the first time, or for however many times you go there. If you go once a year or twice a year or once every other year. But these are some of the same fans that go every single time, and they just sit on their hands and they don't create any type of atmosphere. You see some of those away games, you watch some of those away games, and all of a sudden they start doing the Mesut Ozil chant. Anytime they did that over the past couple seasons, all of a sudden you just saw a pep in the step of Mesut Ozil, and he's just running around the pitch all like high speed, going crazy. Olivier Giroud, same thing. They start doing his song. All of a sudden he starts running around all over the place. It helps. It helps the players. Because if you ever played this game once in your life, you know how tiring it can be. In that 80th minute when you're just like sucking in as much air as possible, you have cramps, your stomach is hurting from breathing, your chest is hurting because it's breathing so hard, your legs are, burning, shaking even maybe, and you need that extra little boost. And where they get it from the fans. But for Arsenal, they don't get it. Don't understand it. Don't understand the logic of some of our fans. I don't understand how they can continue to support the same manager, support, I'm okay with supporting the players. I'm okay with that. Now, some of them, in my opinion, are good enough beyond the season, but I'll still support them because that's the only thing I can support right now are the players. But as far as the manager goes, don't understand the logic, don't understand the reasoning behind it, don't understand of why people are still living in the past. Well, I'm not living in the past. We won the FA Cup back to back. That's great. But we bottled the league for 3 straight seasons. We've bottled Champions League for 3 straight seasons. We've bottled the transfer market every time it's come up almost. The same problems are consistent. That's the only consistency we have at Arsenal Football Club. But the fans, they just bend over and take it. They must have a bottle of KY jelly taped right to their ass so it doesn't hurt as much or something. Because I think some fans are just afraid. I think some fans are just afraid to speak out. Even on Reddit, I probably won't make another thread on there. I probably, I go there now for a good laugh. Sometimes they'll post some articles and stuff like that, which I'll then read. But other than that, I just kind of go there for a good laugh because they are so pro Arsenal is God. Whatever they do is perfectly fine. You'll see that on Twitter too. I'm sure you see it on Facebook as well. And I just don't get it. But then I don't get why, even during in games, these same people are complaining about players. Well, who's bringing in these players? Who's playing these players? Who's playing these players out of position? Who's the one who has the same shitty tactics game after game? But yet he continues to get supported without the resume of what a great manager. He is a great manager. He used to be, at least. But then once he became a businessman, the manager left. He exited stage left. And we're never going to get that back. That's the old Arsene Wenger is dead and gone. The new Arsene Wenger is like a fucking cyborg that I don't even want near me. Like I said, a sideshow act. And people love it. People fucking eat it up for whatever reason. But like I said, they have no right to complain about anything within the club. Not a single thing, because he is the head of the snake. But people eat it up. People are content. People at the end of the season will forget that we finished fourth or third and say, "Oh, we got Champions League next year." They'll laugh at Man United or Chelsea and try to stick it to them a little bit. But guess what they have in their trophy case? They'll try to stick it to even Liverpool. Guess what they have in their trophy case? Something that we don't. But we'll continue to cheer on and say, "Yay, we meet Champions League for 20 straight seasons, for 21 straight seasons," without fucking winning it. So the fans, I mean, sometimes you need to take a step back and just have a fucking reality check and really listen to what you're saying. Really looking at your tweets. Acting like the manager can do no wrong. Because in that way, there'll never be a change. Honestly, as far as Arsene Wenger goes, honestly, I do not think he'll even leave after the season, no matter what happens, and he won't even leave after next season. I think he'll sign another 2, maybe even another 3-year contract. And people will be up in arms and they'll be like, "Yay, he signed another fucking contract. Yay, I can't wait for the next 3 years." Holy shit, that'll just, I mean, if I'm alive still then, I've made it past hell, honestly. Um, but the fans, I mean, it's just, we're divided. We're not unified anymore. We used to be. We used to have excuses. We don't have any excuses anymore. We don't have that. We couldn't spend for 5 or 6 years. We can't have that excuse anymore. We can't have the excuse of, well, we can't pay certain players this type of money. We can't get these type of players into the club because we don't have the money. Excuse is dead and gone. It's used up. Put it away. Stop using it. and start really looking at this club realistically in an unbiased approach. We are laughed at so much by other fan bases. I mean, even Man United laugh at us. And look at them since Fergie left. Chelsea, same way. Liverpool even laughs at us. But, you know, that's probably enough about the fans and going into talking about the fans. Talked about it long enough. Again, it feels good to get some of this stuff off my chest and talk about it. Um, Maybe for you guys as well. Sometimes you just need to talk to a friend or something. Someone who also has a vast football knowledge, who does have that unbiased approach. You know, when I was a kid, I thought my team should win every single game and win every single trophy. That's when I was a kid. Now I'm an adult, and now I know that's not going to happen, and that shouldn't happen. But I want my teams to be competitive, so I can be proud of them. And right now, I'm not exactly proud of Arsenal Football Club. Definitely not proud of the supporters as well, because change needs to happen in this club. We need to launch ourselves back into the modern era. We're still stuck. But something needs to change. Um, After all this, kind of complaining and voicing my opinion, I might be doing a part four tomorrow, talking about the positives. Are there any positives? There's a few. There are a few, and I think I might be going into that to give maybe a glimmer of hope of the rest of the season, even the summertime of the transfer season. There's a few positives, and definitely going to talk about that. I probably will make a part four and talk about those positives, because something needs to come out, something positive needs to come out of these things instead of complaining about this. Who knows? I'll be probably talking about the same shit next season too. Um, but again, it feels good. It feels right. You know, Looking at your own team at an unbiased approach is the best way to go. Looking at your own team in a realistic way is the best way to go, instead of keep on lying to yourself, because that's what a lot of Arsenal fans do. They just lie to themselves. Oh, everything's perfectly fine. Yeah, it's not, unfortunately. But yeah, I'll probably do a part four of positives, and I've got a few things that I would like to talk about the positives of what we can come out of this season, what can happen for the rest of the season, and of course what can happen during the summertime possibly. But yeah, maybe look for that sometime tomorrow, maybe before the Watford game, potentially maybe even view it after the Watford game. Probably do something on the Watford game as well. Hopefully it is a win for us. Hopefully, after that player meeting they had before the Hull City game, that you know they have a large foot up their ass and they're gonna play like they mean it, like they care. Um, because the season's almost over. I mean, there's not much time left. 9 games in the Premier League, 1 game in the Champions League, and then potentially 4 more games in the FA Cup. So that's a total of only 14 games left in the season. Um, so there's not much time left. There's not much time for there's no time for excuses. There's no time for using excuses like referees or anything like that. They have to go out and do it themselves. And hopefully that gets done. Hopefully we see an energy in these players that we haven't seen in some time. And yeah, that'll be it. Leave your comments. What your thoughts are. You know, um, I wish we were unified. I wish we were unified as supporters. I wish we were on all the same page again, because when we were on the same page, and I'm continuing on here, like when we were on the same page, it was fun being an Arsenal fan. You know, it was fun talking about Arsenal, where supporters weren't fighting amongst themselves. You know, it was fun. It was fun making fun of other groups. The only time that Arsenal fans become unified is when there's a fucking poll somewhere, on Sky Sports or on Talk Sport or some ESPN or something. There's a poll, and all of a sudden Arsenal fans come out of the woodwork and we win the poll. Yaya Sanogo is the Ballon d'Or winner. That was fucking hilarious. That was great. But at the same time, this is the way we need to act from this point forward, because that's the only time we're going to get any change. That's the only time that we're going to see this club propel itself into the future and continue to be relevant, continue to be great, continue to call ourselves a big club. And that's what needs to happen. And it needs to happen soon rather than later, um, because we can't keep on fighting amongst ourselves. But like I said, leave your comments. Tell me what you think. And is there any way to salvage this season? Is there any way to, um, you know, try to get your point across to the point to where you're not talked at like a piece of scum or a piece of shit like some of these Arsenal fans. You're not a real Arsenal fan. What does that even mean then?